welcome or welcome back to the channel. Today, if all has gone to plan, should be the 22nd of April. And on the 22nd of April 2021, so 4 years ago today, I put out my very first YouTube video, which was of course the Booktube newbie tag. I went back and looked at some of my early videos and I was like, oh bless her, she's wearing eyeliner. I used to actually put makeup on and stuff for videos. Now you just have to take me as I am. I think at the time I was wearing makeup anyway. I used to put on a full face of makeup for work. Now I just can't be bothered. So I wanted to do something to mark the Booktube anniversary. I know that I've done tags in the past. I was running through quite a few ideas. I thought maybe do something about 5-star predictions that you haven't read. I did a video about books that I was intimidated by, but then I'd actually read quite a lot of them, so go me. There was books that were on pause. There's one of those is still on pause, but that wasn't a very exciting video because there was one. And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna read something that I discovered in each year that I ended up absolutely loving. I thought about rereading my favourite books of 2022. That kind of merged into rereading books that I think are favourites. I say are favourites, so I was thinking of rereading Bunny and stuff. That kind of just kept morphing, and then I was like, oh, read one of your favourite books from each year. So read 4 things, your favourite thing from each year. But then we hit Stumbling Block because I got to 2024 and I was like, I don't really want to reread any of my top books of the year because it felt a bit soon. There are actually, weirdly, this is probably the first year where I've read stuff and been like, I want to reread it in the same year. But the stuff that I would want to reread from 2024, I was like, I don't know that I want to reread it yet though. So this is a rambling way of me telling you that what I decided to do was just pick something from each year that I really loved, and I'm going to reread it this weekend because it's Thursday for me and Tuesday for you, but it is a bank holiday weekend, so I do think this is doable. Let me go through with you what I have picked for each year. In 2021, I was just discovering Junji Ito, and in my favourites vlog, I was like, literally everything that I've read by Junji Ito, and there was just all of them going up on the screen, you know. But I thought, what is one that I absolutely love by him that I think would be the most fun to reread that was in that selection? So I've gone for Uzumaki. I freaking love this book. This is about this weird town where everyone is being haunted by a spiral. It doesn't sound scary, but it's Junji Ito. He can make anything weird and creepy. I had actually planned to reread this last year and then I just didn't get to it, so this is perfect. I have always said this is probably my favourite standalone because I read a lot of his short stories. Most of his stuff is short stories, to be honest, so I thought about rereading Shiver, which is the one that I always recommend, but I thought let's read a standalone, and if I was picking a standalone I would definitely pick Uzumaki because I just love this so much. 2022 really got me thinking because 2022 is when I discovered Attack on Titan. I read the first omnibus, so the first 3 volumes, in September 2022, and by the end of 22 I had only read the first 4 bind-ups, so 12 volumes. The fact that Attack on Titan has been in my life for less than 3 years and yet has become such a huge part of my personality, I think says a lot about the series. I know that I never miss an opportunity to gush about Attack on Titan, and as much as this coming up as one of the best things to come out of 2022 seems like the perfect opportunity for me to reread it, I am currently already kind of rereading it in the big colossal editions, and I like to take my time with those. And not that I'm rushing this stuff, but I would prefer not to do it on the tight deadline that I have. Also, I am currently fighting with myself not to start rewatching the show because Becca is currently watching it and I have FOMO. How can I have FOMO? I don't know, but I really want to rewatch it. Anyway, I'm not going to reread or rewatch Attack on Titan for this vlog. Instead, I'm going to read both of the Monk and Robot books. I read both of these in 2022 and I've not reread them, but I absolutely love them. So this is a perfect opportunity again for me to pick these back up. I really hope that these hit the same the second time round. I love Becky Chambers' kind of like quiet, soft sci-fi, and as much as I love Wayfarers, these are so special. There's just something so oddly comforting about them. It's about this tea monk called Dex, who lives in a society where robots gain sentience. So now obviously humans use very little technology, if any, because they're aware that sentience can happen, and all the robots kind of like went off into the wilderness. And then it's about Dex coming across this robot and their friendship, their relationship, and what they learn about each other. I loved it. Very excited to be rereading them. For 2023, I've picked Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine M. Valenta because I loved this, first of all, but I remember when I was talking about it saying I would love to reread this now I know what I know about it and kind of like see if I pick things up differently. So again, perfect opportunity for me. I feel like 2023 was the year that I really got into kind of like what I term quiet horror. I'm not sure whether the things that I'm using it for are the things that other people, because I think quiet horror is not like a term I come up with, but the things that I class as quiet horror or literary horror, I'm not sure whether I'm right about it. That's just how I feel about it. Does that make any sense? Anyway, if I look at it, I think the first kind of quiet horror that I read was Women Eating, which was in 2022. So I could have picked that for 2022. But I feel like that really kind of kick-started something, and then I was going out of my way to find other quiet horrors. This was one that I kept seeing talked about and I was very hyped for it, and it was a really good payoff. So this is about a woman who kind of thinks that her life is perfect, but all the people around her are keep like questioning it almost. And then there's a part of the house that she's not allowed to go to, and she starts to question things. And it's I believe I always pitch this one as Even Creepier Stepford Wives. That's what I used to pitch it as. I'm not sure that I'd pitch it that way anymore, but the vibe. And then for 2024, there really was only one option. Like, I struggled with it for a while, and then I felt stupid for not thinking of it immediately, because I read some fantastic things in 2024. Some wonderful books, some amazing manga, and it was very hard to pick one, but like I said, a lot of it fell too soon to reread. However, there is something that I wanted to reread last year, even though I only read it last year. Like I say, very rare for me. And I have been saying that I wanted to reread it this year because in 2024, I started Vox Machina and Critical Role. And I've been wanting to reread the volumes 2 and 3 of Vox Machina Origins because 1, they were fantastic. 2, they have Persian. So that's what I'll be doing. I'm not rereading volume 1 because I've already read it twice and I want to read these twice to kind of even it out. So I'm going to reread these. I'm really looking forward to this, I'm not going to lie. Not just because Percy's in it, but just because I remember having such a good time with it. And it's basically kind of like the guys from Vox Machina before the Vox Machina animated series starts. It's these, which is kind of more based on not even like the campaign, it's pre-campaign as well, I guess, when it was like the home campaign, because Critical Role, they started playing it just at home and then got so into it and obviously had built this amazing world and then started doing it on YouTube, and then, you know, it blew up, as it should, because it's fantastic. So that's my plan. Now, I am aware that I have ended up with 6 things for 4 years, and I mean, technically I'd like to get this filmed in like 2 or 3 days. However, this is going to take me no time to read. Honestly, I'm going to fly through these. These are super short, all of them. So doable. I think that all of them are less than like 200 pages, right? I think they're all less than 150 pages. Yeah, they're all under 150 pages. Doable. Chunky, but manga. Manga is a very fast read. Lots of pictures. Doable. So tomorrow is Good Friday. I have no plans and I have no child to start with. He's coming home sometime in the afternoon because he's at nanny's at the moment. So hopefully if I get up at a reasonable time, I can read some of this and then I can come back and tell you whether it still holds up. Hopefully this will be 5 stars across the board. That's the hope, because everything in this pile is a 5 stars. Let's hope it stays that way on Reread. It's Saturday and I lied to you. When I said on Thursday, oh, I have no plans on Friday, I was really tired. I knew that I had a one-on-one D&D session with Ash. It was only a short one, but I knew that that was happening and I was excited for it. But because I was updating you when I was so tired, I just forgot. So Friday, I had my one-on-one D&D session with Ash because I couldn't make the last group session, so we needed to figure out what my character Callista was doing, and it was really good. And I can't say anything because I know that Becca watches my vlogs, and no spoilers. Anyway, so I did that, and then I honestly wasted my whole day. I didn't wake up, please don't judge me, I didn't have my child. I didn't wake up until, I want to say like 2 o'clock. I think it was like 2 o'clock. And then I was like, oh, I have 2 hours until we have D&D. So then I got in the bath and then was like, shit, this is actually, was it 2 o'clock? Maybe it was slightly earlier. Maybe it was like 1 o'clock. Anyway, I had a really long, luxurious bath. And then I sorted myself out. I played D&D with Ash. It was great. And then I don't know what happened. Oh, I edited the opening of another vlog, which was stressful because Filmy Gemma was being an absolute dick. But I did that, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna 100% pick up Uzumaki. And I was messaging Meg because she was like organising her shelves, and I was like, I still have not opened my book. But I finally did and read over half of Uzumaki. It is just as weird. Someone is reversing. I don't know if you can hear that. Someone's reversing. Anyway, it is just as weird and wonderful as I remembered. And there was so much that I had forgotten about, because it's like a bunch of short stories, but they're all connected. They're all set in this one place. They all have like a link to like the core character base, and they're all to do with spirals. And it just gets weirder and weirder with each one. And I had forgotten so much about it. And then as I was reading them, I was like remembering what was going to happen in that story. There was the last 2 that I read are to do with babies, and it really creeps me out. The babies ones really creep me out. I just love revisiting some Junji Ito. I love Junji Ito's art style so much. And I love the way that he kind of creates this really creepy vibe around something that you would think is so inconsequential. It's a spiral. It's a literal shape. And yet he manages to bring it in so many different ways. Like, he uses snails, he uses whirlwinds. He just manages to find like all of these ways to bring spirals into it and make it super creepy. I just love him. I also love the fact that he is probably terrified by his own work. I can't wait to read Uncanny, you know. This is just reminding me like how much I love his stuff, because it's been a while since I've picked up a new Junji Ito, and kind of revisiting a favourite, such a good time. There was one bit in here, it was the one that was to do with snails, and someone used the term glacial turd, as in like you're moving like at a glacial turd pace. Oh, it's Amazon. It was not Amazon, it was Tesco's, which I thought was coming tomorrow, and I'm pretty sure I moved you when I got up, so apologies if you've moved. I was talking about glacial turds. So a character describes another character as moving at the speed of a glacial turd, and I took a picture and I sent it to Meg. And I was like, this pretty much sums up my entire day. Like, this is how I have gone through my entire day. And she said it reminded her of something that would be said in Castlevania. And now I want to go back to the beginning of Castlevania because I know that I've watched some of it. I want to say like the first 2 or 3 seasons. I can't exactly remember where I stopped. So the only logical thing to do is go back to the beginning, rewatch it, and then continue. And I know that I have Meg to send all my thoughts to because she's, I think, just rewatched it. Everything is making me just want to rewatch stuff. I'm already fighting not to restart Attack on Titan, which I think I'm just gonna have to give in at some point. The algorithm knows that I've been talking about it more. What point do I not talk about it? But because I'm talking to like Becca because she's watching it and stuff, now TikTok is like, hey, remember how much you love this scene? Hey, look at this theory, and hey, here's the opening. It's definitely going to be rewatched this year, isn't it? Anyway, we're supposed to be talking about Uzumaki. Well, I think I've said everything that I wanted to say anyway. I'm very now disjointed because of Tesco turning up. So I'm going to go and make a tea, and then I'm going to sit and finish this. I still don't have my child. I still don't know what time he's coming home. So for now, all I need to do is chill and read. What a great bank holiday weekend. It's still Saturday, and I have finished my reread of Uzumaki, and man, I forgot like how much this builds up as you go, because to start with it feels like kind of interconnected stories, right? So short stories that are all kind of following the same thing, like I said earlier. But towards the end, it starts like pulling things from those stories into like this big climax, and things just kind of escalate and escalate and escalate. And then at the end, there are so many like callbacks to previous short stories or previous chapters, and it's just so well done. I genuinely don't think there's anything I would change about this, because I just adore the way that it kind of like ramps up and up and up, and all the callbacks, and the way that he kind of weaves it all in is so good. Obviously you have his signature art style. There's some really unsettling panels which I love, and Genji Ito is just a genius. It boggles my mind that before 2021 I had never read any Genji Ito, because he's genuinely one of my favourite creators. Like, yeah, he's one of my favourite mangakas, but just the way that he crafts stories, the way that he crafts horror, I think is so good. And yeah, of course, a lot of it is visual because it's a visual medium, and he has a real way of just making stuff really creepy. Like, he has a very distinctive art style. If you see it, you know it's Junji Ito. But aside from that, I think the way that he builds a story, the fact that he can take anything and just make it creepy, make it weird, genius. This was a very good pick to represent 2021, because I feel like 2021 is when I was really getting more into horror, really getting more into manga. I feel like this sums up that year really well. It's now 12:30 on Saturday night. I am getting more and more dishevelled as these updates go on, but I've just finished A Psalm for the Wild Bill by Becky Chambers. I ended up getting the audiobook from the library, which I'm actually really pleased I did, because I read it physically last time, and the audiobook is so good. Like, oh, the way that the narrator brings these two characters to life, so good. I have fallen in love with them all over again. Moscap the robot is just, they're so endearing and inquisitive, and just genuinely like loving life in this really quiet and beautiful way. And Dex, I'm finding super relatable, because they have like a pretty good life, but they just feel like unsettled, like they should be doing something else, or they should be doing more, or like, am I on the right path? And I think that's so relatable, because all of us have those moments of self-doubt and wondering whether we're doing the right thing. I constantly have doubts about my channel. Am I doing the right thing? Are people enjoying this? I'm doing the things that I like. is that what everyone wants to see? Like, you question yourself constantly. And obviously this is different. This is Dex questioning their entire kind of life path. But I just think it's so relatable. We all have those things where we question whether we're making the right decisions all the time. And I'm so glad I reread this, because it is honestly even better than I remember. I've been listening to it whilst I frantically try and figure out my TBR for May, because oh my god, it's gone a bit crazy. So even though it's 12:30, I've also got the audiobook for A Prayer for the Crown Shy from the library, so I think I'm just going to listen to it for a little bit more whilst I try and figure everything out. I'm so close, I think, to nailing down a workable TBR, not necessarily achievable, but we'll try our best. So I think that continuing this and reading a bit more is a good idea, even though it is like really late. Tomorrow I am going to my mum and dad's for the day, well, for the afternoon, I think, to do like a Easter Sunday thing. I think my mum's doing a barbecue, although my brother-in-law will be doing it, but you know. So I'll be out a lot of the day, but in the evening when we come home I will be reading again. So I'm going to read a little bit more of this now, and then I should be able to finish it tomorrow evening. I'm either a genius or this is all about to go horribly wrong, because I think I said about this stand that I bought which has the ring lights on, but with the ring light shining straight on my face I get the glare, right? So it needs to go up and over, but then I don't have anywhere to put my phone, right? I have attached a second selfie stick to the stand using a hair grip. Hair grip? Not a hair grip, a hair clip. One of the claw ones, right? So either this is a genius move or you're going to fall at any minute. It is now Sunday night. I've had a lovely day at my mum and dad's. My auntie from Australia was there, my granddad, my sister. Jay was just a dream, as he always is. And when we got back, we decided just to chill downstairs until bedtime. So we sat in the lounge, we had a Pokemon ambiance on. He was playing his Pokemon game and I listened to the rest of A Prayer for the Crown Shy. Oh, please can we have a book 3? Now that I've reread this, I am just reminded of how badly I need a book 3 in my life. This is such a lovely continuation because it kind of picks up almost straight after. Well, no, there is a little bit of a gap, but it's mostly like book 1 ends and then there's like almost like an admin period, I guess. And then you pick up as they are embarking on the next part of the journey, right? And what I love about this is just seeing how Dex and Mosscap's relationship, their friendship, begins to grow, and how much they warm to each other and how much they both get from the experience of human and robot meeting again for the first time. I love how we get to know more about the world and more about how humans have adapted to this new type of almost like self-reliance, like not relying on technology as much and things like that. So I loved kind of getting to know that. This is a world I would actually love to live in. It just seems so almost peaceful. I think that's like a good term for this series in general, even though there's a lot about questioning how you fit into the world and your personal path and all this kind of stuff. Like, it's just such a gentle, peaceful series that makes you question things, but in a really soft manner. I don't know if that makes any sense. I would read 7 more books, 10 more books in this world, honestly. I just love our 2 core characters so much. I love how they kind of interact with each other. I love the questions that it all raises, the discussions, the kind of ideals that it puts forward, especially on how like humankind should interact with the world around us. It's just... Becky Chambers, please give us more. 2 books is not enough. It's not enough. It is now Bank Holiday Monday, and last night I read Comfort Me with Apples, and I forgot how fast this book reads. I flew through it. It took me like an hour and a half, maybe? I can't really remember. But yeah, it's so good. I remember when I read this, coming off the back of Woman Eating and stuff, and I was looking for this kind of quiet horror, and this was one of the first ones that was on my radar. And I feel like the experience of reading this the first time was when I was like, I really like weird stuff and horror stuff that has a lot of like deeper meaning. This is 103 pages. For such a small book, it really does pack a punch, because this woman is convinced that her life is perfect. She thinks, you know, I was absolutely made for him and we are so perfect together and we have such a good life, and look at all this lovely stuff that I have and this lovely house. And sure, like, I never see him really, and sure, the neighbours are hinting at stuff, and you know, maybe there's some oddities about the house that we live in, but my life is so perfect. What do I have to complain about? And it's almost, if you take everything else away from it, right? I'm going to do a small spoiler section at the end, but please, if you are going to read Comfort Me with Apples and you haven't read it yet, please skip the spoiler section, because I don't want to take away that kind of realization for you, so just skip that bit. But if you take away every other aspect of this, it is about a woman stuck in an abusive relationship that she does not even realise is abusive. She does not realise that she is married to this man who is controlling and narcissistic, and genuinely believes that he is such a great guy, and he is awful. Like, honestly, awful. And I picked it up last night and I was like, I really hope this is as good as I remember it. I really hope that this still has an impact now that I know what I know about it. And it does, because the whole time you're just like, I'm uncomfortable, because there is clearly something going on. Like, yes, all right, this time I knew, but like, it's so obvious that there is something wrong here. And Sophia, our main character, is so utterly oblivious, because it's almost like she's been told, hey, everything's perfect, everything's great. And so that's what she believes. I'm going to put the book down. We're going to talk some spoilers. So, seriously, if you haven't read it, move along. Okay, if you're still here, I'm assuming that you either read it or you have no intention of reading it. So, by the end, we realise that this man, this husband that she is obsessed with, is actually Adam of Adam and Eve fame. Sophia is not his first wife, she will not be his last wife, and he's constantly having God kind of like make him a wife, because everybody else has someone, everyone else has a partner. So all of the characters in this are animals. So you've got Mrs. Lion, you've got Mrs. Fish, and all this kind of stuff, and they are the animals, right? And then you have Sophia, and she is the latest in a line of women that have been made for Adam. And every time he finds something wrong, every time something goes wrong, and God's like, right, I'll make you another one, but this is the last time. But Adam is so, he's like a spoiled rich kid, right? So you know how you get like rich young men who get away with everything because, you know, daddy will pay off everything. So like, daddy will pay the lawyers, daddy will pay off the victims and stuff like that. This is how he comes across, because he has been told that Sophia is his last chance, and he flat out says to her, oh, it's okay, because my dad will make me a new one, we'll try again, we'll learn from this what's gone wrong here, because you were not supposed to like feel any kind of unhappiness, so the fact that you do, yeah, you have to go. It turns out that all the animals really care for Sophia, and they don't want her to suffer the same fate as all of the wives that have come before. So they're desperately trying to warn her, and then it just massively backfires, and she meets like the snake and everything, and you realise you're in Eden, and it's just like a punch to the gut, right? Because she loves him so much. And then as she kind of becomes aware that this is not good, like things are not as they seem, and the animals are trying to warn her and look out for her, and it just massively backfires into this confrontation with Adam, where you find out all of this stuff. You find out how, you know, he keeps having wives made from parts of himself, and oh, we won't use that part again because by using an I, say, you saw too much and stuff like that. And it's just like adds this other layer. Yes, okay, there is the religious element, there is this idea that Adam was not a great guy and all this kind of stuff, and like the fact that he needed a wife made, and you know, the Adam and Eve storyline. But more than just looking at the religious side of it, there's also this domestic side, and you could transplant this. It doesn't have to be set where it's set. It doesn't have to be set in the Garden of Eden. It doesn't have to be an Adam and Eve prelude or whatever you want to call it. It's the fact that you have this very arrogant man, this man who is like a prince, right? He is the first son of God, the first human, right? And he has this role where he's going around like naming all the animals. So he thinks he's so important. And because he has like an important job and he has like a powerful father, he gets away with whatever he wants. It doesn't matter that he's technically killed a bunch of wives. It doesn't matter that he's a terrible person, because who's gonna stop him? If even God himself is letting him do all these things, how the hell is anyone supposed to stand up to him? And I feel like that is something that we can apply to just terrible people in real life. And I think that actually makes the book scarier. It's such a short book, and I feel like it has so many layers to it. Even though I knew this was Adam and the Garden of Eden, I was reading it and just picking up all these little bits and applying it to the real world, and I just think that makes it scarier. Spoilers over. I was expecting this to actually be a super short update because it's such a short book, but I forgot that I actually have a lot to say about it. I just think that this is such a genius little novella. I think that the layers of it, the way that it can mean so many different things, the way you can pick so many different things out of it when you read it a second time, a third time, I just love it. And I do think that this was when I started to really realise that this is my sort of thing. I like weird stuff and horror stuff. I like hidden meanings. I like deeper meanings. It's why I get so much out of Grady Hendrix, because I always think he's talking about something completely different to what you think. Like, yeah, okay, we're talking about a weird little puppet, but actually we're talking about grief and about how things can tear families apart and trying to reform familial bonds and stuff like that. So there's always something else, and I really like that. I like stuff that is talking about one thing but actually is talking about another thing. And I think since reading this, I've found so many other things which I think are favourites, and they all have that kind of in common. And I'm not saying it's purely because of this, but definitely being led to this book and then having such a good time with it really made me like hone in on that aspect of my reading, aspect of my taste, and looking specifically for books that do that. So this was a good pick. I feel like even though it's so short, this was a good pick for the vlog because it sums up 2023 and sums up how that year really kind of like not changed, solidified my reading taste. Now, I am aware that choosing to reread these was entirely self-indulgent. Let's be honest, this whole video was entirely self-indulgent, right? But I don't have huge amounts to say on this, okay? Like, I had some pretty good points to make with the rest, like Uzumaki being one of my big Junji Ito finds and how much I love Junji Ito, then talking about Monk and Robot because it introduced me to like quieter stuff and how much I enjoyed that, and Comfort Me with Apples, talking about like horror and weird books with layers. And all I really have to say about this is that I freaking love it. I freaking love it. 2024 is when I was introduced to Vox Machina and Critical Role. Big people to blame, Ash obviously and Becca. who convinced me to watch Vox Machina, and from there it was just a slippery slope. Because every so often, right, a show or a series, whether it's like a book series or a manga series, a TV series, introduces you to a character where you immediately are like, ah, this is one of those characters that is very important to me. Obviously, the series then also becomes very important to you, but there's always something about that character in particular. So obviously it's Reiner for me in Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan is one of my favourite things in the world. But Reiner is above that. Like, the character of Reiner is very important to me. I can have very in-depth, deep discussions about his motivations, his kind of storyline, his arc, his growth throughout the series. My friends know this, okay? They know this. When I watched Vox Machina, Percy happened. It is known that sad boys with a tragic backstory are my kryptonite. If I latch on to one of those characters, it is game over. I will become obsessed with the character, with the series. I can't help it. There's nothing I can do about it at this point. It is what it is. Percy fits into that bracket very well. And the lovely thing about these two volumes is that it's his introduction to the rest of Vox Machina. So, you know, you kind of get to see everyone's initial reaction to him, and there's hints of things that you know are going to come into play later down the line. And he has some really good moments. Like, he shows off a bit. I literally took a picture of a panel and sent it to Ash and Becca and was like, badass. Because it's clear he is a little bit cocky. He's showing off a little bit. Like, it's new people. He's cemented himself in the group. He's just, you know, showing them what he can do. There's so many good plot moments in this as well, and so many good character moments. Like, obviously, now rereading it, I know the characters very well. The first time I read, my first introduction to Vox Machina was actually volume 1 of The Origins, which I read for one of the D&D vlogs, and then I was like, oh, this is actually really good, I might have to watch the show. Was convinced to watch the show. Game over. And then obviously watching some Critical Role, I feel like I know the characters better now, so I'm reading these and I'm like, oh, such a Vax thing to do. So although I don't have like huge things to tell you about like, oh, this is what it meant for my reading and this is like a really good plot point, finding Vox Machina and Critical Role in 2024 was a big deal because it really encompasses so much that I love. And for somebody that is slowly stepping away from fantasy more and more and finding it harder and harder to get into fantasy books, I'm so pleased that my love for fantasy has not affected things like this. I still love fantasy graphic novels. I still love D&D. And I think the fact that this is D&D based, the fact that I know it's based on a campaign that I'm actively watching, kind of actively watching, I will get back to it. It's just so much fun. Because yes, I love the characters. Yes, I love the world. But I just love D&D. And I feel like reading stuff like this and watching them play, watching the Vox Machina show, playing Baldur's Gate, it gives me ideas for things to do in D&D that I probably wouldn't have thought of by myself. In fact, I know I wouldn't have thought of by myself. I played one full campaign. I played a very terrible ranger. She was not a ranger. She was like a rogue / ranger hybrid thing because I didn't know what I was doing. And now that I've had more exposure to it, now that I have kind of watched stuff like this, it gives me ideas for things that I want to do with my character. And I think that's so cool. I think that now having stuff like this accessible for people that are just getting into D&D or people that are wanting to like expand their classes or their play style, having this sort of thing is so cool. Okay, so maybe I did have more to say about it than I thought. I will say as well that I freaking love the art style in this. It is so perfect for the series. It works so well. And I really need them to hurry up with volume 4. Because I know that the kind of like individual issues are currently coming out and I need the bind up. Because especially now that I've reread it and remember how this ends, now I'm impatient all over again. This was an incredibly last minute decision. The idea for this was very last minute. I picked the books and was like, oh my gosh, that's 6 things. And you have like 4 days to do this. But you know what? This was a great weekend. This was incredibly self-indulgent. But I feel like, even though there's not huge amounts of horror in here, I mean, obviously we've got Uzumaki and we've got weird stuff. I feel like this is a really good representation of, I was going to say, the journey that I've been on over the last 4 years that I've been running my channel. This does show a lot of things that I really enjoy. D&D, weird stuff, quiet stuff, less quiet stuff, manga, horror. I think this was actually a good selection, to be honest. I think I could have selected very differently. I could have selected like my absolute favourites and done like Bunny and Grady Hendrix, but I have other plans, loose plans around Grady Hendrix, so I didn't really want to read anything from him at the moment. And this is all stuff that I've been wanting to revisit, so I think this was the perfect way to celebrate the channel being another year older. If I was picking a book to represent 2025 so far, it would be The Lamb by Lucy Rose. I have, to be honest, I have not stopped thinking about that book since I finished it. I want to reread it this year, and like I think I said earlier in the vlog, very rare for me, but there's actually like a few things this year that I really want to reread. We Used to Live Here, Victorian Psycho, The Lamb, and I feel like the 3 of those things do kind of sum up how I'm feeling in 2025. I'm liking weird stuff, unsettling stuff, creepy stuff. The vibe for 2025 is definitely leaning way more horror than it maybe has before, which I understand is probably not news, because I feel like this channel has been getting more and more horror as we go. But before I started this channel, I've said this before, but before I started this channel, I was mainly a YA fantasy reader, and now I do not reach for it at all. Now I just want to read weird and horror and manga, and I'm having the best time. I do have some projects for the second half of 2025, or potential projects I should say, where I will be deciding whether fantasy is going to be for me anymore. I don't want to say that all fantasy is not for me, but I think that I'm becoming a lot more picky on what I want to pick up, and I don't think that my shelves are reflecting that. So it's something to think about. It's the same with romance. I think I really thought I entered my romance era and I got a lot that now I'm not so sure I actually want to read. And you know what? Space is finite. There is not huge amounts of room left on these shelves. In fact, there is no room left on these shelves. I have stacks of books everywhere. The shelves are stacked, the book carts are stacked. It's a logistical nightmare. So that's some of what I'm kind of doing in 2025. I'm trying to be a bit more ruthless. I'm trying to get rid of things that I rate less than, or 3 stars or less, or that I really look at and think, do you know what? I don't think that's for me anymore. And that's okay, because looking over the last 4 years, it's very clear to me that my taste has changed, and I'm getting a lot better at knowing what I do like. And just because I bought it at one point and thought I would love it doesn't mean that I have to keep it. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad reader if I don't pick it up, or that if somebody gifted it to me at a time when it was something that I would enjoy but I didn't get to it and now I'm not going to enjoy it, who am I reading it for? Am I reading it for myself, or am I reading it because I feel bad that somebody gifted it to me? Do they want me to read it and not like it, or would they prefer that I pass it on? It's things like that. Like, I do feel guilty whenever I go to unhaul something and I see a gift note in it. I feel bad, but the problem is that there is only so many hours in the day. There is only so many days in the year, and you can't read everything if you are like me and you buy all the things. Some things just get left by the wayside, and that's okay. It's okay if you buy a lot of things because you're in that kind of mood, but then it passes. That's okay. This has gone off at a tangent, but basically what I'm saying is that looking back over the last 4 years and really picking out these things, looking at what I was reading and how it's changed was really insightful for me. I recommend it. I recommend just going back over the last few years and seeing the change in the things that you're picking up, the change in the things that you're enjoying, because it's opened my eyes a little bit. And maybe there's some stuff on my shelf that needs to go, and there's some stuff on my shelf that I need to prioritize in the rest of 2025. So thank you if you made it to the end of this incredibly self-indulgent vlog, especially if you got through my weird tangent at the end there. But this was fun for me. I had a good time. I hope you did too. If you have any thoughts on what I read, let me know in the comments below. If you want to, tell me what you would have picked for this challenge. Like if you was looking at the last 4 years, what books would you have picked to represent it? Please do. If you just want me to know you're here, that per part is always appreciated. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're not already subscribed and you'd like to see more content from me, remember to hit that button, leave a like if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!